Friday night, 7 o'clock. Well, just after 7 o'clock. Apologies for the late start, but it's probably the earliest we've started. Even though, as I say, we're late. A couple of technical difficulties there, but they're all resolved. And you're listening to the Friday Night Football Pitch live on YouTube and across all podcasting platforms after the show has dropped. Tonight, we will be joined by Graeme Duthie of the Locker Room Podcast. As always, I've got Dennis Newell, and we'll be talking all things football. Scottish football, English football, European football. And as I say, in the company of Graeme, who's just joining us shortly, we will be discussing the events at Hearts over the last week with the dismissal of Steven Naismith and talking to media of Tony Bloom getting involved in the club as well. And we'll be starting off tonight with a giveaway in conjunction with our sponsor, Kits Scotland, on Instagram. You can win the jersey of your choice from the extensive catalogue that Kits Scotland offer. Go ahead and look at what you want. All you need to do is subscribe to the podcast, like tonight's episode, and stick in the comments what jersey it is you want. But as always, I say, I'm joined by Dennis Newell. Dennis, good evening.
Good evening, Cammy.
How are we tonight?
I'm fine, thank you, yes.
Good.
Today, but just waiting on that winter breaking.
Yeah.
I think. But yeah, I'm okay, thanks.
Good. Busy week for yourself this week?
Yes, very busy. 5 days.
Yeah. It's hellish, is it? No. And we're also joined, as I say, by Graeme Duthie of the Locker Room Podcast. Graeme, good evening to you. How are we?
I'm all good, mate. Thanks. I'm just off my own podcast, so I've had to hot tail it quickly over here. So all good.
I hope you get the technical stuff completed quicker than what it takes me after the show.
Just about.
No bother, no problem.
Hi, Graeme.
All right, Dennis, mate. How you doing?
Not too bad, thanks. Good. Yourself?
Aye, all good, mate. Not too bad.
Good.
Good. Obviously, sorry. A lot to talk about this week. I think probably the place to start, let's start with some good news, because we've spent most weeks, with the exception of last week, slaughtering Scottish performances in Europe. Last night, Rangers go to Sweden. Not expected to do hellish much over there, but from what I've watched, they thoroughly dominated that game and fully deserved a 2-0 victory, Dennis.
Yeah, I wouldn't say the performance was good. I would say it was mediocre to poor. I know we have gave Rangers a bit of kicking, and they still continue to do that until they start finishing off a job they're meant to do. The game should have been well wrapped up after about 40 minutes. Instead of that, they continued to miss chance after chance. There was at least 5 glaring chances, and at least 4 with just one in the goalkeeper, and they missed them. You can't afford to do that. You might get away with that if you're playing Ross County, but you can't get away with that when you're playing against teams in Europe. And Malmo were shocking. They really were. They were like rabbits in the headlights for the first ball that was kicked. And they never had one shot on target all night. So that speaks volumes for them. The only thing I would say is I thought Rangers thoroughly deserved the result. And the defence played really, really well. Forward line and people breaking from midfield to finish, really the worst I've seen. It really is. But if you're a Rangers supporter, instead of me as a neutral trying to look at a good game of football, then you'll be delighted if you're a Rangers fan. For me, I've seen too many flaws in that, and I hope that's not what we're going to be served up for the rest of the season. And yes, if Rangers progress, that's excellent for Scottish football and for the Rangers fans, as I've mentioned. But for me, I don't want to be watching that week in and week out. It was soul destroying.
Graeme, all I did was catch the highlights this morning. So as I say, to me it looked as though Rangers thoroughly dominated that game. Certainly, as Dennis says, they did miss a number of chances, but a 2-0 victory away from home, irrespective of who you're playing, or the quality of the opposition, or how well you play or not, it's still a great result away from home.
It is. I mean, Rangers Europa League seem to have something about them. They don't tend to do well in Champions League, but Europa League, they're a different team. And they should have won that game by 5 or 6 yesterday. They were actually quite comfortable at times yesterday. Malmo really offered very little. I was surprised at how poor Malmo were. They're a decent Swedish side, but they offered very little yesterday. They were very open. Rangers had so many chances, first half especially. They had so many chances to kill that game off. The second half, again, they missed chance after chance. and they should have won that game by 5 or 6. They eventually get some goal from McCausland, really good goal as well. But I thought it was quite controlled and very professional. They will play better teams in the Europa League. But yesterday I thought they were very, very comfortable. But we did our own podcast last night after the game, and we all said that Rangers should have won that game by far, far more with the chances they had. And that, as much as they won 2-0, which is a great result, of course it is, the only negative they can probably take is the fact that they should have really won that game by far more, because they were, I mean, the chances they had were like gilt-edged. There was one towards the end of the second half where Dessers plays in Barami. He hushed the shoot straight away and he takes too many touches. And I thought there was decent performances yesterday. I thought Diamandi was excellent. Suter was pretty comfortable. Proper played very well. But they should have won the game by more. And I spoke to Rangers mate yesterday who said that he'd have taken a 2-0 win before the game, and of course you would. But it should have been far, far more. With the chances they had, they've got to be killing teams like that off.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, is it a measure of what we expect from Rangers, the fact that we're sitting here critical of a 2-0 away victory?
No, I don't think so. I think when you've seen the potential quality, when we'll use the word quality, to tear the defence open of a team that's sitting at the top of the Swedish league, then Rangers have certainly got something. But for me, it's very frustrating when they are not clinical enough and they are not, what would you say, up to the standard that you would expect watching top flight football. If the Europa League is going to be serving up these teams like that, then Rangers will go far in it. There's no question of doubt about it. And you're right, Graeme, the two central defenders did do very well in the Rangers defence. And I thought that could be maybe a good combination going forward. And the boy they brought in at left back, and Steady Sterling, done an exceptional job as well. Tavernier, I thought, get roasted a few times down the channels, but it didn't kill them. So, you know, the defence in general looked really quite solid. And that's a thing that you should take more from, and then be working, obviously, in the training ground, how to finish when you're just having a goalkeeper to beat.
Yeah. Still, 2-0. It's a good start to the European campaign. Celtic, obviously, last week. Oh, we're looking at, Graeme, sorry to bring it up. We'll bring it up early just now. Obviously, it's your own team, Hearts, next week have kick off their sort of European campaign proper now into their league stages.
Yeah, and I think the good thing for me is it's behind closed doors, so nobody's going to see it no matter what happens. That might be a good thing just now. But yeah, it's a big game. It's Dynamo Minsk are not a great side, but not a bad side either. It's a game that Hearts should be looking to go there and get something from. But it's a hard group. You know, we do have decent teams now that we, especially home games, I think we should be beating them. You know, Omonia and Nicosia should be 3 points. Absolutely. Yep. I don't know much about Heidenheim. I think they started the season quite well in Germany. But there are teams I think we can probably win. But given our form just now, I think we struggle against Brecon City because we are so poor just now. But it's a game that I'm looking forward to. I love European football. European nights at Tynecastle are something different. I've seen a lot of good nights at Tynecastle. I was around in 1989 when Hearts beat Bayern Munich in an absolutely fantastic game. So I love European nights under the lights. And I'm looking forward to Thursday. But we have to start showing some form. Because if we can win tomorrow, I'm sure we'll get on to that later. Win tomorrow, it gives us some kind of confidence going into next week. But it is a big game. And if that's the game we can take 3 points from, then fantastic. But we have to show some kind of form. Because so far it's been an absolute disaster.
Yeah, well, I mean, opening the season, obviously, with that draw and then 8 consecutive defeats since then, it's little wonder. I know, obviously, if you're watching some of the stuff that you do online, it's little wonder that Naismith has been under pressure probably for the last 4 or 5 weeks, and eventually the board made the decision last weekend that time had come to the end of his reign, kind of thing.
Yeah, and it was right, but it is weird because it was only about 6 weeks ago we gave him and his staff new contracts till 2026, and then you're sacking him 6 weeks later. But I think had we seen some kind of performances recently, you might have thought, do you know what, it maybe is a bit harsh. But I've seen nothing. There's been absolutely nothing at all. He keeps changing the team every week. He changes the system every week. But again, as what usually happens when you're not doing well, managers always get sacked. I think the players have got to take a lot of blame as well because they've not been good enough. And as much as I love Lawrence Shankland, he has been very poor this season. He's been miles off the player he was last season. but I wasn't seeing anything performance-wise that I thought, do you know what, we can turn this round. Last season we had a really bad run, but then he changed it. He turned it round in December time, 12 games unbeaten. It was a great run. This season, that's not happened. It's been very, very poor. What worried me last Saturday was you're 2-1 down at half-time to St Mirren. You've got 50 minutes at half-time to try and say what you want and try and change things. Second half, I'm expecting a reaction, and there was nothing. We had our first shot in 83 minutes. There was no point last week that I thought, do you know what, we're going to turn this round. What I found really interesting in the midweek there was Andrew McKinley said that had we seen a reaction against St Mirren, he might have stayed, which I find a bit of a strange comment to make because it was quite clear to me that things were not going to change. We were really, really poor. The football has been awful. You're signing guys like Jan Dander and Blair Spittle, creative players. You're benching Dander. You're playing Spittle as a CDM when he's clearly not. There was just a lot of things that were baffling about Naismith. It's never nice to see a manager get sacked. And I do feel sorry for him, but I just think there were so many things just not quite happening, and the decision was right. I'm just surprised that the board actually did it because I didn't trust them to do it, but I'm glad they did.
I looked at them.
On you go, Dennis. Sorry.
I looked at them at the start of the season, Graeme, against Rangers, and I actually felt optimistic about how the Premier League was going to be this year, because today I think it's maybe the best, if not one of the best, Premier League games that we've seen up to now. And it was a great draw. It really was. Rangers were playing well. Hearts were playing well, and I thought the result was right. And that Hearts team is just a shadow of it. What's changed from that first game to now when we're sitting here looking at getting into October? What has it changed?
I think there's a number of things. I mean, I think first game of the season, I was really pleasantly surprised because our record against Rangers was pretty brutal. But I was impressed. I thought we played some decent football. I thought we created a lot of chances. But the next week against Dundee, we started 4-2-3-1. But then against Dundee the week after, he changed it, went to 3 at the back, made 2 changes, and we got beat. He changes system every week, and it just doesn't work. We don't look comfortable playing 3 at the back, and I've always said that. I think a lot of things as well, the players just haven't responded to whatever he's trying to do. They've been, and again, players for me have got to take responsibility. They've not done anywhere enough. But we signed creative players. You know, you look at Blair Spittle, 13 goals for Motherwell, 10 assists last season, and we play him as a CDM. Jan Dander, Ross County's most creative player, an attacking midfielder, and we've benched him for the last 4 weeks. A lot of things he's done just don't make sense to me. Lawrence Shankland, 31 goals last season, and he's been nowhere near looking like he's going to score this season. There's been a lot of things that just haven't really worked this season, but I just think a lot of it is the fact that Naismith, even now, after 8 games, didn't know his best team, didn't know his best system. And I think that showed because he's making changes every week. And another thing I've got a problem with as well is the fact that we've got a really good B team there. And I'm a massive, massive fan of Finlay Pollock. And I thought he's going to start now. And we give him to Raith Rovers, which I thought was a bad decision. There's just a lot of things that have not made sense to me about Steven Naismith. And as much as it's horrible to see him get sacked, and I think I've said this before as well, this might be harsh, but I think Hearts is the biggest job Steven Naismith will get. I don't think he'll get a bigger job than us, personally.
No, I think Steven Naismith looked as if potentially he could do a job there. But when you look at the run in actual fact exceeds probably about 80% of managers in Scotland for the amount of defeats he's had. I think he was given a load of time, maybe 2 or 3 games more than he should have. Because what you can't afford to do, especially when you look at the Premier League, is, you know, every 3 points is a prisoner. You're okay if you've got within 2 matches where you can catch up and get into the middle of the league. But when you start to slip, I'll tell you what, Livingston found it out to their expense. A few times it's happened to them, and you just can't recover. And if Hearts hadn't made the change, even if they got a draw against St Mirren, as was stated, he might still be in the job. That wasn't a way forward. The problem you've got now is, who do you bring in that can hit the ground running? I mean, you know, what's your own thoughts on who can take this job, Graeme?
It's interesting because I had numerous conversations with Hearts fans and stuff, and I put a poll out on my Twitter page a few days ago, and I basically had 3 managers in mind: Derek McInnes, Stephen Robertson, Alan Neil, and then somebody else. 523 people voted, and Hearts fans said 8% Derek McInnes, 1% Stephen Robertson. I think it was about 3 or 4% Alec Neil, and the rest of it was somebody else. And I agree with that. I don't want to go down the whole Scottish manager experiment again. And I think I would quite like a progressive manager, like what Aberdeen have done with Jim Thielen, who's been fantastic. He's had a great start. I don't want to see another Scottish manager, and I don't want to see another ex-Hearts manager. Because some folks said John McGlynn. I don't want to go down that route again. And I think as well, the thing with Derek McInnes is McInnes likes to have full control of transfers and everything at the club. He wouldn't have that at Hearts. We've got a different structure. So I've heard a lot of folks say Derek McInnes would absolutely take the job. I don't agree with that. I don't think he would. But I want to go a different route. I want to see something a bit fresher, a progressive manager who's going to play attacking football. And I just, for me, don't think McInnes or Robinson fits that mould. They might stabilise us. I've got no doubt about that. But I want to see something a bit different. And I just think we need to go down that route. And I think we've got the whole Tony Bloom thing coming in as well.
Yeah.
A lot of Hearts fans, I think, are getting they're a bit ahead of themselves, thinking this guy's going to come in, he's going to revolutionise Hearts, he's going to play money in. He's not. He's basically going to help us in terms of recruitment data, in terms of manager and players. But he won't have a massive sales stuff behind the scenes. He might get a minority investment eventually, but the foundation of Hearts will never, ever let somebody else take control. And I'm fine with that. I'm absolutely happy with that.
So you're saying, Graeme, you're looking for a foreign manager to come in?
Yes, that's the route I'm going down.
Yeah. I mean, I see your point with Derek McInnes. He would bring nothing to the table. I don't mean that disrespectfully to him, but you need somebody that's got a bit of inspiration rather than this goldfish bowl we have in Scotland and a merry-go-round. You know, a few have been mentioning, I'm thinking, well, is it such a massive step that you would go to Hearts and disrupt the progress that you've been making at your own club? And I think that's a bit shortchanging the team that's actually employing you now if you're a team in Scotland, if you've not won anything. And then if you have won something, are Hearts the leap that you would want to take? I mean, I think Hearts are a very big team. We spoke about this last week. That you've got Celtic, Rangers, and you have Hibs, you have Hearts, and then behind that you have Aberdeen and Dundee United. That's the way that's always looked in the generations that I've gone through with this. So Hearts have got to be up there. And I think Anne Budge said a way back when we were doing the radio, Cammy, that basically she was looking for second or third spot and wouldn't accept anything else.
Yeah.
You know, so her demands were high. It didn't mean that Craig Levein lasted in the job any longer than he might have, but they're a very ambitious club, Hearts, and I know you are looking for a manager, but I find it strange that you would maybe look at a foreign manager who doesn't know the Scottish game, because there's no many out there.
I think one of the worries for me, and I've said this previously, we don't have a football person on the board. Now, when Anne Budge first came in, the very first thing she said was, I'm not a football person, and she did show that, because she showed far too much loyalty to Craig Levein, who should have been sacked long before he was. She has a lot to say at what happens at Hearts. And listen, that's her right. She runs the club. She has basically kept us alive, along with the foundation of Hearts. But we don't have anyone else on that board that's a football person, and that's my worry. Who's making these decisions? Joe Savage left not that long ago. He was only football person on the board. And I know it's pretty much been put out there already that Joe Savage didn't want Steven Naismith, but the board didn't listen to him. Now, if Tony Bloom's going to come in with his recruitment data, you have to listen to him. You have to listen to what he says. If he's got a particular manager in mind, then you can't really go against that. You can put your own opinions forward. I get that completely. But my worry is, who do we trust on that board that's going to make football decisions? Because we don't have anybody. And that's always been a concern for me.
Yeah, but I think when you look at some of the names that are actually tipped, I mean, Alec Neil, I think, is good, but it's pulling somebody out of the hat almost. And I say to myself, there's nobody really, when I looked at potential candidates, there was nobody there that I actually thought, oh, they'll do a great job.
The thing with Alex Neil is he's failed at every English club he's been at. You know, ultimately, maybe has a decent first 6 months, but after that, he fails. He failed at Preston. He failed at Sunderland. You know, so Alex Neil's a failure. That's not the kind of guy Hearts are looking for. And my first thoughts there when you're saying about Tony Bloom and his experience and his recruitment, etc. Tony Tony Bloom obviously employed a guy that Dennis and I are both familiar with. Dennis actually plays golf with him. Would you be surprised to see Billy Reid get mentioned for the Hearts job, Dennis? He's been a good assistant.
Yeah, but I don't personally, haven't spoke to Billy recently. I don't think it's a job that he would take on himself.
Yeah.
You've got to remember that when they were at Chelsea and Brighton, it was head on, Cammy. I mean, we'll have Billy on one night, but the guy is enjoying his time with his family and being away from the game. And you can understand it. I mean, Billy's mentioned how hard it was, and you think to yourself, when you've felt it that much and you're not really too keen to get back into the game, that tells you how hard it is, because Billy's a football man through and through. There's no doubt about it. And it might be, and I keep saying that to him, maybe time will heal it and you'll have the drive and the ambition to go back in. But like you say, because of the Brighton connection, it would be a perfect slot for him, because he's managed Hamilton and he's had Manager of the Year in Scotland with managing Hamilton. So I don't think it would be out with his grasp to come in and do it and get the right staff round about him. But whether if Billy would be interested, I don't know. And I don't know, Graeme, if that's even a name you have thought about.
He wasn't on my list, I'm not going to lie.
No.
I mean,
as I say, my thinking is just the fact he knows. My thinking is the fact he just spent a number of years with Tony Bloom, obviously at Brighton. He's a manager who, yes, as an assistant, certainly, but as an assistant to Graham Potter, he spent a number of years overseas as well, so he kind of fulfills almost the foreign manager, Graeme, that you were looking for, in terms of he's a Scottish manager with a foreign pedigree,
I'll tell you something, though. He would do a job.
I'm still hoping that Jurgen Klopp might decide to come to Hearts.
Yeah.
That's your Liverpool connection, first and foremost.
It is, absolutely.
Yeah, as I say, it's just a name there that just came to me. As I say, a bit of a dark horse, certainly, but if you're saying that for the last time you spoke to him, he's not looking to get back into the game, or, he's enjoying his break away from it and things like that, But I mean, that's nearly a year he's had out of the game.
Yeah, but when I spoke to him, it was last month, so
yeah,
you're looking at it and you're saying, how much does it change when you're at nearly a year and your thoughts are still the same? My intention is to speak to him next week anyway, so I'll run it by him. I didn't bring it up on the programme simply because it's not something I thought was that viable at this moment in time that would be maybe presented by Tony Bloom. Maybe say that, I don't know. Maybe that's a question the press should ask them. Just say, look, what about your old assistant manager at Brighton? Do you think, because obviously Billy thought he was excellent. I mean, seriously, they thought he was an outstanding man, never mind his business acumen. And, when you look at Graham Potter and what Billy Reid brought into that club financially, it was massive, a massive amount of players that they get sold on. And he's more than capable, Graham, to do that job. I've known him. I actually played junior football with him when he's 16-year-old. So I go back a long way with Billy, and I actually think he would do a great job for you. But you've got to have the hunger and desire to do this. And if it's face on, and he took that job on, you'd probably find it even harder than maybe it was at Chelsea.
Yeah, possibly. Certainly, it's a job. I think that it's going to need somebody to turn your club around. Then, Graeme, by the sounds of things,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good squad. We've got a lot of really good players there. It's just something's just not quite clicked this season. And I think I watched a video earlier on about Hearts and training and stuff, and they look quite positive and stuff. I mean, Liam Fox has got, I think, 3 games. He'll get Ross County, Minsk and Aberdeen, and then I think we'll get a new manager in international break, which I'm fine with. But it does need something just a little bit different, a bit fresher approach. I mean, I think Steven Naismith, I do like him. I think he was a really good player for Hearts as well. But it always felt a bit too early for me. Last season, I wasn't convinced. He turned it round come December time. But again, I think that kind of coincided with the fact that Lawrence Shankland couldn't stop scoring. Lawrence Shankland's not scoring now. And that's a massive, massive issue. If Lawrence Shankland doesn't score, Hearts don't score. We've scored 3 goals all season. 2 of them are from defenders. We've got 1 attacker that scored, and that was Yutaro Oda. So we need to do something a bit different. We need to get fresher ideas in. And I just hope that the board appoint the right man, because my worry is that we're just going to go backwards again. I mean, we can't afford to make another project appointment. This is the thing that concerns me as well. For me, Hearts should never be someone's first proper job. That just shouldn't happen. If you want to cut your teeth, go lower league. Don't come to Hearts. That's my opinion anyway. We need somebody else in there that can turn this around, because it's a very, very good squad. You've got a lot of good players in there, and it can be turned around. But I don't want another Scottish manager or another manager associated with Hearts, because it just doesn't work.
Yeah, well, know what I'll say to that, Graeme? Good luck, because I'll tell you what, it's very difficult. Yeah, a European manager that's top dog that's going to come in there and change that team enough to compete against Celtic and Rangers. And seriously, I think Scottish, for me personally, would be the route. Who's there? I don't know. Somebody that can get their hands on players that's going to cost them nothing or virtually nothing, the same way that Celtic got the boy McGowan from Dundee. That's the kind of player you've got to be able to attract. But you need to know and have a network of people around about you, rather than agents kicking your door down and selling you somebody that's no fit for purpose.
I've got a name in mind. He's a Swedish manager called Kim Hellberg. He, for me, his CV looks very impressive. He's the guy that I'd be looking at.
Right, well, that's a good name to put in the hat in the ring. You know, whether the board will sit and look at a whole list or how many applicants they had. I mean, I don't know whether they're going to go out into the field and actually attack the market and see who they want rather than who's going to put themselves forward. And that's always the question you've got when it's a board of directors. They can take the easy way out and you'll get a video, you've got all the stats of teams from Europe that he's managed. But when it comes to actually handling the Scottish game, night and day.
Yeah,
and we've seen European failures before.
Yep, no doubt about it. The Hearts job is a fantastic job for anybody, but as Graeme says, I can agree with him. I think it's too big a job to be your first one, you know, as it was for Naismith. And again, I agree with you, Graeme, in terms of Naismith will not get a bigger job in Scotland, because really it is only Rangers and Celtic, and I don't think he's in with a shout either of these two, you know. So I think he'll look to be dropping down the leagues in Scotland, or dropping down to maybe League One or League Two down in England if he wants to continue in management. But no,
hypothetical one, Cammy, is what happens if Liam Fox goes out and runs over the top of Ross County tomorrow? He then gets a great result away to Minsk, and then he's still on the job at that point, and they've got Aberdeen up at Aberdeen, and he gets a result there. What do you do?
I think he'll get caretaker at the end of the season.
Well,
and I don't think that's someone that's going to keep Graeme happy.
This is my worry. I was always concerned that this is what's going to happen. He could win his first couple of games, and then we give him the job, and it's another project appointment from the B team. I don't want that to happen. Now, of course, I want Liam Fox to do well in Ipswich. I'm fine with that. But a couple of days ago, Andrew McKinley had basically said he's been told already, Liam Fox, he's only taking it interim.
Yes.
The thing is, if Liam Fox was to win his first couple of games and then get the job full time, then lose his next 4 or 5, then we're back at square one again. You can't have a project appointment. We did this already with Naismith, who managed the B team. He got brought in at the first team. I don't want the same thing with Liam Fox, and that's always been my worry, is the fact that if he does well in his first couple of games, the board might just think, do you know what, we'll just give it to him. And that's not the way it should go. But that has been my worry, and I said that previously.
Yeah, it's always a gamble. I see exactly where you're coming from with that. But, you know, I keep saying no matter who you're going to bring in, it could be the same result. It depends whether you decide and keep a manager and he doesn't have a good run to begin with. You keep him to the window and the signings are no much better. I'm being negative with this, but the bottom line is if you get the wrong man, you're back to square one again. So the board have to really spend a lot of time over this.
Graeme, I've got a couple of suggestions in the chat, both coming from Scott Hartley, and Scott suggested possibly Paul Simpson or Ryan Lowe. Obviously Ryan Lowe, the former Preston manager. I think Paul Simpson was at Preston at one time as well, but Paul Simpson, whose most recent job was Carlisle, I think. Either of these two excite you at all?
Do you know what? On one of my other social media accounts, I did actually mention Ryan Lowe. That probably isn't a bad shout. I like the way he plays football. I like the way he talks to the media. I don't think Ryan Lowe's a bad shout, to be fair. Paul Simpson, I'm not sure about, but I don't think Ryan Lowe's a bad shout, because that's someone that I mentioned as well.
Yeah, definitely. As I said, we'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks. As you say, it could well be Liam Fox as a job as caretaker. Hopefully not for your sake, Graeme, that they bring somebody in who is going to be a permanent appointment. But certainly in the short term, Definitely hope that Liam Fox can get a few good results for the Jam Tarts. But moving away from Hearts, Dennis, and looking at events last weekend, obviously we had let's call it the League Cup. We had the League Cup last weekend. Obviously Rangers, Dundee United, Rangers, Motherwell, Aberdeen and Celtic all through to the semi-finals.
Yeah, entertaining weekend.
Yeah.
You know, you mentioned something, you've mentioned it a few times, that Falkirk would probably be Celtic's hardest game of the season up to date, and you've been proven right. That was a decent game to watch as well. You know, I always felt that the legs would go and Falkirk would probably buckle, which they did.
Yeah.
But that's not to say the performance has been the best I've seen from any team this season, because they went about their job properly. They didn't try this, let's defend, let's see if we can get a replay, let's hit them on the break. No, they went for it. Great stuff. That's what football's meant to be about. No, this negativity of hanging on and hoping that you'll maybe scrape by with a break up the park. No, brilliant Falkirk. And it was a good display overall with Celtic. But I'll tell you what, they hold on for a while. I mean, it was late in the game. So that tie was good. You know, there's an element there where you say, was there ever going to be a moment when you look at the fixture that Celtic, with the way they've been playing, we're ever going to get beaten that tie? I don't think so. But I'm sure there was a lot of people questioned it quite well into the game.
Yeah, well, on Sunday, I actually owe Falkirk an apology, because on Sunday at that point in time, I'd forgot all about the game, believe it or not, and I got a text from one of my colleagues who basically says, you think Falkirk are going to do it? And I've asked him the score. He said, well, Falkirk are winning 2-1. So I went through the living room, put the television on, and the minute I put the telly on, Celtic equalised, and obviously they then went 3-2 in front. So I thought, I'll go back and do the passport application form now. Walked back in and Celtic scored the fourth one. So as I say, I was pretty much Celtic's good luck charm and done it for Falkirk, I think, you know.
Well, you try to emphasise that just before Celtic scored the goal to myself with text, and I thought, it's still early yet, Cammy, and I hadn't sent it, and by that time there was another 2 goals.
Aye.
So, you know, that was a good game. It really was. Yep. The Saturday matches was Aberdeen 4, Spartans 0. Good result for them. Great day out for Spartans, and it's good to see somebody in the lower divisions getting into that level. Rangers 3, Dundee 0. Rangers by far the better team. And again, it's a litmus test of how these teams are going to compete against the Old Firm. And Rangers a lot stronger than what we've got at this moment in time, with the exception of Celtic. And if they can just improve a little bit more by scoring the goals that we've discussed right at the start, then they could be a force. But that's great. They've got into the next round, you know. And then you had the other quarter-final, which was Motherwell beating Dundee United 2-1. I should have watched that game. I didn't. But by all accounts, it was, what would you say, a tie that could have gone either way.
Yeah, that was a decent game.
Yeah. So that leaves us then with the next rounds coming up, which is a semi-final, and Celtic have drawn Aberdeen, and Motherwell have Rangers, both at Hampden, and the kickoffs are on 2nd of November for Celtic Aberdeen at 5:30, and the Sunday, the 3rd of November, is the other semi-final at 3 o'clock, which is Motherwell have Rangers. Good ties, and it's very much looking like the Celtic and Rangers final. So that'll be interesting. And you never know, by the time the final comes round, maybe Rangers will start to find the net a little bit more, and it could be a better game than the last couple of Old Firm matches have been.
Yeah. Dennis pretty much writing the results of the semi-finals there, Graeme. I think Aberdeen and Motherwell will both have something to say about it. Motherwell have given Rangers a game already, and Aberdeen have been absolutely fantastic so far this season. So I think neither of these two ties are really a foregone conclusion.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Aberdeen have been excellent so far under Jimmy Thielen. He's had a great start. 11 games unbeaten. He's been fantastic, and that'll be a very, very big game at Hampden. Aberdeen will make it difficult, but I just think with the quality Celtic have got, I probably would see Celtic winning that. I thought Falkirk were excellent last week for most of that game. They were very, very impressive. Probably gave Celtic one of the hardest games they've had all season, to be honest. And I think the Motherwell Rangers game, Motherwell have been okay so far this season. They've had a decent season so far, but Rangers should probably would expect to win it. But I think Celtic will give Aberdeen will give Celtic a very, very difficult game. But I probably would agree. It probably will be a Celtic Rangers final. But I think Aberdeen, the way they're playing just now, I've been very impressed with them so far. I actually think there's a very good chance that they could finish second this season.
Yeah.
Do you think Celtic will finish third?
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
Celtic have got Aberdeen before then anyway, so that'll be an interesting tie. I don't think, I've just had a look there, I don't think Motherwell get Rangers between now and that tie.
No, they played them second game of the season.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, it will not come around again.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, interesting stuff.
Yeah, indeed. Graeme, just been asked quickly there, your thoughts again on, I think I posted it on the screen there, Arnar Gunnlaugsson. I think that's the guy you were mentioning.
Yeah, Icelandic manager. Again, not a bad CV. Another one that I wouldn't mind getting the job, to be fair. I don't think that's a bad shout. But for me, I would still probably go the one that I'd suggested earlier, Killen Helberg. I think he'd be a decent shout. But if Arnar Gunnlaugsson got it, looking at his CV, looking at Wikipedia, although maybe you can't trust Wikipedia, I wouldn't be against that, to be honest. Not a bad appointment.
Yeah. But you're definitely setting a foreign manager. So, as I say, that's you can only time will tell. Certainly, only time will tell.
Unless we change his name, maybe we'll get Steven Naismith or something.
Yeah, you just want somebody that gets the job done. As you say, decent enough squad of players. Naismith, I just don't know what's wrong with that boy. That in reality, I've said it and spoke to Cammy about it. He should really be down south now, earning about £30,000 a week. So, how do you miss the boat with that? It might come around again. I know strikers do have their lean spells, but he's hit rock bottom. Even looking at him, it just doesn't look as if he's into it, firing in all cylinders. I just don't know, Graeme. I mean, you see him. Is there something lackluster with him, or is it just poor service? What is causing the guy to be the same player that he was last year?
I think part of it is poor service. He's not really been playing up front. He's playing number 10 role, which is not his position. He wants to play up front. And I think a lot of it, a few folk have mentioned to me as well, could it be the fact that he didn't get a move in January or the summer?
Yeah.
I don't think that's the case because there was no bids for him. Now, I can understand if he was disappointed that, say Hearts got a bid in but turned it down, then I can understand him being frustrated, but there was no bids for him at all. And Andrew McKinley said that. There was not one bid for him, which I did find surprising. But he hasn't looked, for me, he's not looked particularly fit. He's not looked at his best at all. Things can change very quickly. He could go out tomorrow and score a hat-trick. That could change very quickly. But at the moment, I don't think he's been anywhere near the level he should be. And he's got the captaincy. And I said it on the podcast that I did earlier on. As much as I hate to say this, I would drop him tomorrow against Ross County. Because he's not looked anywhere near this level. If I'm Liam Fox tomorrow, it's a big decision and a bold one. But I'd drop him tomorrow, personally.
Yeah. Make a statement, obviously, to the rest of the team that you're in control. But also it sends a message maybe to Shanklin. It's time to get the finger out and actually start concentrating in the league and stop being so bored and fed up or scunnered or whatever his issue is,
Yeah, certainly I know the player he was, and he just looks totally despondent with the job he's got. And it may well be the combination that he's not had enough service and nobody's come in for him. The combination of the two can be maybe the reason why he's went off the boil. Quality player too. It's a bit of a shame because he's worth watching.
Yeah, definitely is. I think that's Scott Hartley. Thanks very much, Scott, for listening tonight, and thanks very much for your good comments. Cheers, I appreciate it. Sorry, guys, just get that in there. Obviously, again, Scott, I think that's him. He's going to get his ready for his own podcast. He's got a podcast later on. Podcast galore tonight, Graeme.
I know. I never get tired of doing them because they are fun to do. Obviously, I do my own one on a Friday night, but they are good to do them.
Yeah. As I say, Dennis and I used to do a radio show for a number of years, and we were looking around for things to do. So that's where the idea came for this one, So that's why we're still fresh and in our infancy. Well, the podcast is anyway. Neither Dennis or I is.
No,
So,
I'm in the grave dodger role.
No, to be fair, I've watched a couple of shows. They're really good. You guys do a really good job. So it's been good.
appreciate it, mate. Thank you. Thanks.
So, if you look
you
at the Europe for Hearts, what do you think is going to happen, Graeme, in relation to Minsk? I mean, it's only next week. What would be your best outcome?
I mean, right now, I'd probably take a draw just to get some points on the board. I just want to see a reaction from the players. I mean, I think, like I said earlier, the fact that it's behind closed doors might be a good thing. The fact there's no fans there, that might help us. But I just want to see us get a positive reaction. And I think if we win tomorrow, then it will give us a bit of a boost going into next week. Again, losing's a habit. If you keep getting beat every week, then that's going to knock your confidence, which is why I think tomorrow's a big game for Hearts and Liam Fox. If we can win tomorrow, put in a good performance, then that breeds confidence for next week. I'd like to go into this with something positive, because let's be honest, the last few weeks it's been very, very negative, understandably so. But I can see us taking at least a point next week. But I think tomorrow's a massive game. We have to show something tomorrow and get a reaction.
Yeah.
Do you think Liam Fox is going to add much to this tomorrow?
I don't think he'll make too many changes. I think he knows the squad. He could potentially bring a couple of B-team players in. Now, Macaulay Tate isn't in the B-team squad for tonight, and neither is a couple of players as well that might play tomorrow. Like, for example, Adam Forrester at right back, because Gerald Taylor's now got an ACL injury, which could keep him out for the season, which is a huge blow. But I don't think he'll change too much tomorrow. I know that he does like to play 4-2-3-1, which is our preferred formation. But I think, tomorrow's one of these games that he can make changes if he wants to and make a statement. But I don't think he'll make too many changes. But to me, tomorrow it's up to the players. They have to show a reaction, because let's be honest, I've said it before, as much as the manager always takes the blame, the players have basically got him the sack. They need to react tomorrow. They need to show the fans something, because we've seen nothing so far this season. There's been no reaction. Every week when we get beat, it's like, right, we'll see something next week. And it's never happened yet. The players tomorrow owe the fans a performance and the result.
I mean, eight defeats in the bounce suggests that the players are down tools and weren't playing for the manager. It's as simple as that.
It's our worst start to a season since the early 1900s. I mean, that is how bad it's got. And
I remember the games.
I was going to say, you remember them, Dennis? Aye.
The thing is, nobody saw this coming. Like, starting the season, we were all very positive after that draw Rangers. Nobody saw this coming. We could never have seen how bad we were going to be. And the players have got to start showing something, because it's on them. They're not. I don't think they're doing enough. I'm not going to say that last week they were trying to get the manager sacked, because I don't believe that's true. But there's been nothing. There's been no reaction. There's been no energy. There's been no fight, and that's the worst thing for me.
Could it have been the worst? Yeah, could it have been the worst start you had by Rangers? If maybe you'd started taking that game out of the equation, things might have changed for you earlier. You might have made the change with Naismith maybe 5 games into the season, because maybe he was held on to a bit longer, because you're looking at it turning the corner back to it was against Rangers in the first match.
Yeah, I was at the United game about 2 weeks ago, and you could pretty much tell then it should have been done then, because it was we created literally nothing. I would have done it then, but certainly after Saturday, I know a lot of folk have said, it's quite harsh to sack him this early. It generally wasn't, because there's been no reaction. There's been nothing to get excited about, and that's been a big problem.
Yeah. Anyway. Moving on, Cammy, where do you want to look at next?
Let's go to the fixtures, I think, Dennis. Let's. We've obviously done the cups.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. Cups coming round. It's the Scottish Cup first round tonight and tomorrow. So that'll be interesting. I'm just looking at some of my old clubs that are still into the lower levels now. Albion Rovers and Stirling are in it. And then you've got Cumbernauld Colts, who are playing strollers. There's none of the fixtures, to be perfectly honest, jump out at me and go, well, they will progress well down the line, but it'll be interesting to just follow that and see,
Yeah, so, it's still early doors. I think it's another couple of rounds before the the professional clubs come in or before the league clubs come in. So look in more detail when that happens, I think.
Yeah. There's one game I want to talk about, Cammy, and that is in the English Premiership. Before we go on and look at maybe a couple of the fixtures. And that was the Arsenal and Man City game. I'm sure the three of us have had a look at that match. I watched it, and I'd be interested to see what your thoughts are, because there's been different things, even on Sky Sports, bringing it up how the game was played. Did you see the game, Cammy?
I saw bits and pieces of it. I saw highlights after it, So I think the thing that stands out is the kind of bitterness almost now between Guardiola and his ex-lieutenant in the shape of Mikel Arteta. The two of them seem to be at loggerheads almost, and I think that's interesting.
Well, I still think they're friends, but the bottom line is they're not particularly happy with each other's players. Graeme, did you see the game?
I did, yes, I did indeed.
What did you make of the second half and the way both teams went about trying to win the game after Arsenal went to 10 men?
I can understand Arsenal being a bit more defensive because they're trying to get something out of the game, but I always call him Poundland Arteta because that's what he's, a Poundland Pep basically. He's trying to be like Pep and he's nowhere near it. I can understand what they were trying to do. I mean, Man City are one of these teams that they had a lot of possession last week, but again did very little with it. It was very, very good from Arsenal. They defended very well. But I just think Man City are, it seems harsh to say this, but I think they are, it's getting quite boring now, to be honest, to watch them. And I think we're all looking for this 150 charges, what's going to happen with that. And I genuinely don't think anything will happen. I think they'll get off with it. And they shouldn't, but I think they'll get off with it because it's Man City. But I think Arsenal, there's been a lot of criticism about them. And, I think Erling Haaland was slightly lucky last week not to get sent off. But I understand Arsenal's approach. Maybe not the way you want to play. As a Liverpool fan, it's not what I want to see. But I understand why they did it.
Yeah. I think looking at it, Arteta got a bit of stick off Roy Keane and Graham Souness, apparently, for saying something like old-fashioned or whatever. If I was him, I may have went the same way. What the disappointment for me is, and it just never seemed to grasp this, is Man City's naivety at trying to break that team down was unbelievably poor. Seriously. And it sort of said to me, Pep Guardiola, you've got more in your tank than the way you've set this team out for the second half. They defended Cammy so deep, and you had your 9 players only 20 yards out, and that's more or less what happened to most of the game, right? And then I still looked at it, and Man City still had 5 players between the halfway line and the 18-yard box.
Yeah.
And they never seem to think, wait a minute, how are we going to get by that bank of 3 and a bank of 6 before the goalkeeper? And it only became aware that in the last minutes when they did get the goal, the Grealish went down the outside and they got a corner, and the corner came in, it went back out again and ended up getting a goal. Where did that come from? The channels. Not once did I see Man City spreading the park wide enough in the play to get into the channels, which then splits the 6 up and get balls delivered into the box. And if you don't win it, you'll get the second ball coming out. Never done that once. And I really was astounded that Man City's tactics in that second half were so poor.
I'm not saying they're not one-man team at all, Man City, but I genuinely think the one player that they miss is Kevin De Bruyne.
Yes.
He's the one that's got that defence put in place, that creativity that can open a door. And I don't think they really had that without De Bruyne because he is an absolutely fantastic footballer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're right.
They're almost one-dimensional without him.
Yeah, but it's clear to notice when he's not in the team, and you just look at him and you go, well, he's a different level,
Yeah.
Anyway, looking at a couple of fixtures, just pulling them out, obviously, you've got Arsenal get Leicester City. They'll be going for it to get 3 points. Then you look near the bottom, you've got Everton. What are they going to do with themselves? I then look at the main one, which is at 12:30 tomorrow, which is Newcastle against Man City. But the game for me is a Sunday match where it's Man City have Tottenham Hotspur at 4:30. and I was talking to my colleagues today, and we were discussing what the odds were for a player in each team to be sent off.
Yeah.
60 to 1 for a player in each team. And there's every chance yet, because there's an aggression in these two teams. So it'll be interesting to see if they end up with both 11 players finishing that match.
Yeah.
But that's 4:30 on Sunday, the Man United and Tottenham. So that's that one. I don't know if you have any queries on any of the fixtures.
Well, Spurs finished with 10 men last night. Very, very early. They played the game with 10 men, obviously, in Europe.
Yeah.
Still had strong enough to carry on a 3-0 victory at home against, obviously, Karabakh.
Yeah, that's right.
Andy Burrows for last week would have been happy with that. They're still a strong side. I know Andy was very critical of them last week in terms of how far they defend up the pitch and things like that, and I've seen that in the last couple of games, that they really do have a very, very high line. But Brentford caught them out on Saturday, and again Karabakh, they could have had 3 or 4 before Spurs got their second last night. It's I think that should be a decent game, because both sides are far from perfect. Obviously, Graeme, as a Liverpool fan, you'll be revelling in how poor Manchester United are just now.
To quote Kevin Keegan, I would love it. No, I genuinely don't think. I genuinely don't think United are particularly great. I'm not a massive fan of Erik ten Hag, and this isn't a Liverpool Man United thing. I just don't really rate him. Now, I want to ask you guys a question. Do you think the worst thing they could have done was to win that FA Cup? Because I don't think Erik ten Hag has got a tune out of that team, and I think if it wasn't for the fact they won the FA Cup, he would have been sacked. They've had a really poor start to the season. I thought they were pretty poor. They've been pretty poor all season. Is the worst thing they could have done was to win the FA Cup? Because I genuinely think it was.
Well, they did try to replace him anyway, irrespective of the fact that he won the FA Cup or not. They were looking around. They were sort of hawking his job to the highest bidder almost, and they didn't get a high enough bid, I think, almost, in terms of after the FA Cup victory. So I don't really think for that respect it made much difference. I think if Manchester United could have got an adequate replacement, Erik ten Hag, winning it or not, would be out the door. He's there by default.
But Cammy, what do you need to do to keep him a job down there? Hans Postecoglou today mentioned about what do you do to keep your job? Because he was asking about the questions of people being in a knife edge with jobs, more or less. And he says, well, win cups. But, wait a minute. Man United's win cups. And he's on a shaky nail, so to speak.
Yeah.
What do you need to do? There's a question. I agree with Graeme. I'm surprised he's still there, to be perfectly honest, right?
Listen, I'm not saying I'm not. I'm definitely are surprised he's there. But what I'm saying is, Manchester United tried to get a replacement for him and couldn't find one.
Yeah, but
that's the thing.
If he's at Newcastle United or Brighton or somewhere like that, even West Ham, he'd probably be getting classed as being a successful manager. But the problem is that Manchester United had what we all looked for, which was good results and, most importantly, entertainment. They don't have that now. They just seem to scratch around to get results. They don't look dominant in games, and they still look disjointed for the last, 4 or 5 years, maybe even longer. So they've never really hit it off. But the expectations of Manchester United far exceed, I would say, at least 17 or 15 of the other teams in that division. And that's where the guy's under pressure. So, I think they will replace him probably before Christmas.
I mean, as you were saying, Graeme, and it's probably the one time that Steven Naismith and the Manchester United manager will be compared. Neither of the two of them, I don't think, know their best team. I think you were saying earlier on, Naismith didn't know his best team at Hearts, and definitely Ten Hag has no idea, I don't think, of his best side, or indeed his best formation either.
No, it's funny because they beat Southampton, then beat Barnsley, and all I hear is, Man United are back, and then they draw 0-0 with Crystal Palace and draw with FC20. You're nowhere near. Like I keep hearing folks say, could Man United be in a title race? They're miles off it. They are so far behind the likes of Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool have just got a new manager who looks decent so far. They are miles behind that. They don't use Marcus Rashford properly. They've obviously played Casemiro, who's getting older now. For me, their team is not good enough. And I think, again, just to touch on Tottenham as well quickly, I know that the media picked up on the fact that Postecoglou said he always wins something in his second season. I don't have an issue with that. But the media picked up on that. The guy, a lot of folks said he's arrogant. I don't think he is. He's just got confidence in his own ability. I don't see the issue with that. But the media picked up on that. I don't see a problem with that.
Yeah. I think what Andy was saying last week was, he's saying about he's winning something in his second season. He's managed in Scotland or overseas, so he would be expected to win something in his second season. It's going to be much tougher down south. And I think what Andy was saying last week is as a manager, he's sticking to his guns, he's sticking to his style, he's going to defend with that high line, and I think that's the issue maybe some Spurs fans have got, Media are always going to be fickle, let's be fair, the media are always going to take a comment and jump on it right away.
Well, here's a bet, not that a bet, but I'll mention it. Do you think he'll be around on Thursday the 23rd of January when Rangers visit Old Trafford? That's an interesting one.
Yes.
You think he'll still be there, Graeme?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that will be interesting to see. We'll get you on that Friday.
What's your guys' thoughts on Arne Slot so far? Because obviously taking over from Jurgen Klopp, difficult job. He's lost one game against Nottingham Forest. Liverpool were quite poor that night. But I have actually been very impressed with him so far. I think he speaks very well. I like his general kind of talk with the media. I think Cody Gakpo, Mo Salah, Luis Diaz have started very well. What's your overall thoughts so far on how Arne Slot's done?
I think he's done exceptionally well. Do you know why? Yeah. Because he's come in and it was never broken, so he's not trying to fix it. He's fine-tuned players, he's get to know them, and he's laid back, but with that personality that says, the guy before me done a brilliant job, and I'm going to try and just follow on. He's not Jack the Lad, he's not Mourinho, he's come in there, he's not cocky in any manner. I like him. I really do like him. And I think he will benefit Liverpool a good bit, because he's got that composure that's needed.
Yeah, I think he's changed your focal point of the team as well. To me, it's gone from being Mo Salah to Luis Diaz. I think Luis Diaz looks exceptional. In the games I've watched, he has definitely looked an outstanding player. And it is almost as if he's the main man now, and not so much Mo Salah.
Yeah, and I think the signing of Chiesa, I think he's saying as well, because I'm a massive fan of Federico Chiesa. But I think we've got a very good side. Though I think actually, to be fair, I have to give credit as well to Ryan Gravenberch, because we were looking to try and sign a number 6. We didn't get one. But Gravenberch so far this season in the games that I've watched has been absolutely outstanding. And if we can keep him fit and give him game time that he's getting, I think he could be very, very good.
Yeah, definitely could be. I think it's going to be a strong 3-horse race again down south, between obviously Man City, Arsenal and Liverpool. And if any of the three of them win it, I wouldn't be surprised. I think it's one of these ones.
But can you write off Aston Villa, who seem to have a Midas touch on it? I mean, they beat Young Boys 3-0 the other day there in Europe, and they've only lost one game out of their 5.
Yeah, I don't think Villa have got the squad to challenge the other 3. That's where I think their downfall will be. I think in any individual game, they could be good, but as Arsenal showed when they beat Villa, I think they're maybe missing that strength of squad. Yeah, although they've got 3 or 4 great players as well.
Mm-hmm. So, I know we're bouncing back, but it's a Premier League opposition. Bologna, Liverpool's got during the week then. So, what do you think? Do you think that'll be a tough tie, or Liverpool will just coast by?
I think it'll be tough, but with the quality Liverpool have got just now, I think Liverpool will probably win. I watched us against West Ham on Wednesday night, and I thought we played some decent stuff. Maybe slightly fortunate in the second half. I think 5-1 was quite harsh on West Ham. I'll be honest, it was never a 5-1 game. But I think Liverpool win this game. I think we've got that much quality. It was good to see Lewis Ferguson looking back to getting fitness back, which is good for Bologna. But I think the quality Liverpool have got, I would expect us to win. I watched us against Milan in the first game, and I thought we were excellent. So I don't see any reason to say Liverpool wouldn't win that.
Yeah, and Leipzig is the next opposition after that, which I would expect Liverpool to win as well. So, maybe they'll be well up the league by the time we get round to that. Because the league at this moment in time actually shows Celtic sitting just below Bayern Munich, which is interesting. Liverpool 7th.
I was having a conversation with mates about this. I actually quite like the new Champions League format.
Yeah,
I think it's quite a good setup. I like it.
Yeah, I like it as well. I've mentioned that the last few weeks. I like it because
that definitely it opens up a new avenue.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, you're going in here at the start of next year when I mentioned Rangers earlier. You're away to the 20th of January. That's exceptional against one of the top teams, which is Man United. So you can't ask for any more than that because, as I repeat from what we said the last couple of weeks, you see the ties and you've got 3 teams you don't really fancy and you just go out. And therefore, Scottish teams are out before Christmas. And whereas this opens it all up, I think it's brilliant. I really do. Yeah.
Well, let's see how we feel 6 or 7 games in, when maybe Scottish teams are struggling, But at the moment, it's great. We know we're at least playing in Europe after Christmas. Anyway, on the subject of Scottish teams, Dennis, I think we'll move on to the
we better rattle through these.
Obviously, in conjunction with our sponsor, Football Kits Scotland, dear, who are obviously, as I say, giving away a shirt to one lucky winner tonight. So all you need to do to win that shirt is like the episode, subscribe to the podcast and comment after the pod just in terms of which shirt you would like to win, and next week Dennis and myself will draw the winner and obviously let you know how you can claim your shirt.
Okay, moving into the fixtures in the Premier League, I'll just run through them quickly. Saturday's given is Dundee and Aberdeen, Hearts Ross County, and just stop at that point. Graeme, what do you think the Hearts result will be tomorrow?
I'm expecting a reaction. I'm going to go Hearts 2, Ross County now.
Yep, good. I wouldn't be far away from that myself. Kilmarnock Dundee, Motherwell St Mirren, St Johnstone Celtic. Any of they ties, Cammy? Or do you think the Sunday tie with Rangers against Hibs is going to throw up a shock?
Oh, I fancy the Hearts game. Out of all these ties, I think the Hearts game is the one that's going to be the most intriguing. And like Graeme, I fully expect Hearts to give some kind of response to the change in manager. I think Liam Fox will get a response from the side. And I actually fancy Hearts to score 3 or 4 tomorrow.
Yeah, okay. Moving into Championship, Ayr United and Morton are playing each other. Dunfermline, Queen's Park, Hamilton Partick, Livingston Airdrie, and the tie that I like, or think I would probably venture to, which is not a good Raith Rovers at this moment in time, is Raith Rovers are playing Falkirk. Any of the ties standing out there for you, Cammy and Graeme?
I'm going to go Raith Falkirk. Obviously John McGlynn going to one of his former sides. I definitely think that should be the tie of the anything featuring Falkirk, let's be honest. But the thing is for John McGlynn tomorrow is, can he keep the players' minds on the league football, after the praise they got on Sunday and after their performance. And obviously I think it's first defeat in umpteen games. I know obviously Falkirk still keep harping on about their league record and things like that, but they haven't lost many games over the last 18 months or so. So how do they respond and how do they bounce back to the defeat on Sunday?
Well, they're my tip for to win the league, so I'll continue to say that they'll get a result for that, and I think Sunday's game won't have dented them at all against Celtic. So, I think that'll be onwards and upwards with them. Graeme, are you much a fan with that division?
Yeah, I've said it before. I think the Championship is the best league in Scotland. It's very competitive. You've got so many teams could potentially win that league. I've been disappointed with Airdrie. I really thought they were very good last season. I actually thought Reece McCabe might be with the chance of the St Johnstone job. Whether that'll happen now, I don't know. But I genuinely think Falkirk have been an absolute breath of fresh air. I thought for most parts against Celtic last week they were fantastic. Obviously around this team a little bit, but I think Falkirk will be up there. I pinned myself to the chest earlier on when I went to start the season. I went Partick to win the league. I don't know if I could agree with that now, but I'm still going to go Partick to win it just because I can't really go against them. But I think Falkirk have been outstanding.
Yeah. So we all agree on that one. Moving into the first division, we have Inverness of Stennismuir, Kelty of Hearts Annan, Montrose Alloa, Queen of the South Dumbarton, and Cove Rangers Haverbroth. And you've got a top of the league clash where Alloa are playing Montrose. No much between them, 1 point. So I think for me, that's the tie of the day. Although I still look at it and I go, is Arbroath going to be doing something? They had a victory last week, and Cove have been up and down as well. So that's another interesting tie. And obviously, the ones I tipped for the top was Inverness Cali. They have progressed a little bit, but they still need to get more wins under their belt.
Yeah, they've been disappointing this season, but hopefully the fact that they've got financial situation sorted out up there, they will start to turn things round, and you and I can actually pick a winner of a league.
Yeah, hopefully. Into the second division gives us Bonnyrigg Rose Forfar, Elgin are playing Edinburgh City, Peterhead playing Clyde, Spartans East Fife, and Stranraer are playing Stirling Albion. Peterhead doing very well, although they slipped last week. East Fife are sitting in second, just below Peterhead. Again, just a point between them. Then you've got Elgin and Bonnyrigg Rose. So again, you look at that and you say to yourself, East Fife, are they going to be able to get something off Spartans who have just played Aberdeen? Bigger team, maybe the tempo will be still high with Spartans. Can they get a result? That'll be a tester for me. That's the one I would be looking at for tomorrow.
Yeah. East Fife are the best side I've seen so far this season in that league. You know, they gave us a 5-1 doing, and it was 5 going on at an absolute pasting, you know. Although, to be fair, we were absolutely dreadful that day, as we have been most Saturdays, to be fair. You know, none more so than last weekend, where you play against 10 men for the best part of the whole game, and you get 2 shots on goal, you know. And I think since I've been getting back to watching them this season, that's as disappointed as I've been after a game, you know, that you have 2 shots on goal. I know 10 men can be hard to play against, but particularly again when they do, as Man City found to their cost last week, when you play against 2 banks of 4, which is what Elgin pretty much mounted last week, you know. But that was as poor a game as I've seen, poor a performance as I've seen, and indeed it's as loud as I've heard Clyde fans shouting for a manager's head in quite some time. And fair play to Neil Scally, who after the game spoke to several disgruntled fans, trying to obviously justify how crap Clyde were, to be fair.
Yeah, we've spoken about this nearly every week in depth, and it doesn't seem to be improving, which is the whole thing that we talked about, where you could get points before you reached Peterhead game, which is coming up. Well, that may have been a safety net, but it's looking kind of thin on the ground now, Cammy.
Yeah, the referee, I'm going to say the referee ruined that game last week. The sending off was never ever a sending off. I mean, it was crikey. I'm really struggling for this with the expletives as to see how soft it was. You know, it was absolutely shocking, a sending off. You know, 2 players came together. Nah, it's just very, very difficult. If you haven't seen it, have a wee look at the YouTube on and look at the game, you know, on Clyde TV, and you'll be astonished, absolutely astonished. I showed it to 3 or 4 folk on the Monday morning at work, and there's guys still watching that saying, right, okay, so when's the sending off happening? What's it for? You know, it was an absolutely deplorable sending off. And as I say, it spoiled the entire game, because Elgin thought, right, okay, well, we need to sit deep. They didn't really, you know, as I say, they could have played with 9 men against Clyde and probably got something from the game. But
it's no great.
It was dire, mate, absolute dire.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I know we're running out of time, so I'll just look into the Champions League fixtures. Borussia Dortmund are playing Celtic, and it was interesting to see a different approach from Graeme Rodgers in relation to discussing the tie, because the last game when he was playing Bratislava, he'd obviously looked at them because they were rotten and said that they were in a good best position for starting in the European game. So he had a look and he wasn't daft. Now he's saying the rest that Dortmund have got before Celtic's game is a bit more than they would have liked. So maybe the excuses are out already. It'll be a different kettle of fish when he plays Borussia Dortmund away, I can assure you that. And then I'm really interested to see how Bratislava at home play against Man City. That will be interesting, because if Celtic can turn them over the way they did, what can Man City do? There's a lot of good ties in there. Arsenal at PSG, Barcelona Young Boys, Leverkusen against AC Milan. You could go on and on and on. The other one, the English club, is Aston Villa have got Bayern Munich, and Liverpool have got Bologna, as we mentioned. So, and obviously we've touched on Hearts' game for next week as well. So I think that roughly any day ties that you guys think is really worth the, what would you say, 2 hours that you focus watching it?
On you go, Graeme. I'll let you deal with that one, because I've pretty much scared away all our listeners with my opinions on Clyde. So on you go, I'll let you answer that.
To be fair, when you talked about Clyde, I thought you were talking about Hearts when you said 2 shots on target and fans angry. So
I know.
I would have to say Aston Villa Bayern Munich. That is a cracking tie.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, we know what Bayern Munich are capable of. They've got a lot of quality. Obviously, Harry Kane up front, back on English soil. That could be a cracking game. And I actually hope Aston Villa do well, because I've got a bit of a soft spot for them. But I think that's a fantastic game, and I actually quite fancy watching that, because that could be a cracker.
Yep, that'll be good. Yep. Anyway, that brings us to the end, I think, guys. I don't know if there's anything more you want to add.
No, pretty much that's us. As I say, remember, guys, like the episode, subscribe to the podcast, and comment as well, as I say, for your chance to win a shirt from Kits Scotland. And as Dennis says, we will catch you next Friday, 7 o'clock, when it's all happening on the pitch. Good night.
Good night.